Hey there cats, good time of the day to you and thank you for tuning into my channel. I finally found a game to hack into, so here is a break in my endless flow of Ridge Racer videos. However, before looking into the code and all the things we have to do with it in order to make it all work, let's actually start with the gameplay showcasing the hack. Though I must admit, the real reason behind this race is because I've just watched all 3 Tomm Moore's animations and I can't keep my thoughts inside myself. Pardon me, sometimes I think if I even should actually start doing some kind of reviews, but on the other hand I feel like there are a lot of reviews on YouTube, it just won't fly and I will have to do montages and video tracks specifically for reviews. I think I wouldn't cut it and I don't have enough time for this, so I'll use this opportunity to spill all my thoughts on you. Pardon me for this. If you would like to skip it, I will leave a time code somewhere in the description. However, if you would like to listen, I would be very grateful. So, thing is, I watched all 3 Tomm Moore's animations, starting with The Secret of Decals, which actually left me in the very positive mood for the subsequent movies. This is actually based on a somewhat true story. Nobody really knows what happened, but the animation provides some kind of artistic vision to those events, and it is a very pleasant thing to watch. It actually mixes some Christian elements with Celtic mythology, and it is a very pleasant mix. And I really want to see more mixes like that, which brings me to the first thought I want to share with you. Thing is, there is a huge amount of knowledge about different mythologies, cultures, etc, etc. Everything is out there in the internet, in the online libraries or simply libraries. Everything is available to people. You can take all those ideas, cultures, mythologies, beliefs, traditions, you can mix it up in crazy fashion into amazing representations of some lesser, somewhat unknown events or something completely fantastic, but generally nobody does it. And whenever somebody actually does it, most of the times it remains largely unknown, and it is a very sad thing. And I think Secret of Decals is that kind of animation, largely unknown and at the same time a mix of very different ideas, and I've liked the result of it. I've also liked an unusual fact that the Vikings are shown to the viewer as the villains of the story. It is very rare thing nowadays that the Vikings are the villains, because nowadays, I don't know if you've noticed or not, Vikings are at the very worst are anti-heroes, but heroes nonetheless. But in The Secret of Decals, Vikings are barely human monsters, and it is once again a very interesting representation of Vikings, something unusual to see. And, well, to top it off, I like the animation itself, of course. This is what Tomm Moore is known for nowadays. Speaking of the many ideas that inspired The Secret of Decals, I was especially amazed by frames that reminded me of the Tartakovsky's animation, and Tomm Moore himself, at least in one of the interviews, cited Tartakovsky's TV shows as one of many inspirations for The Secret of Decals. So yeah, Tartakovsky's animation, I definitely felt it and I've liked it. And now we should move on to The Song of the Sea. I guess, after all, this second movie is Tomm Moore's magnum opus. It is a very pleasant animation, perhaps not so much the mix of ideas as the first animation was, but it nonetheless takes very original ideas. Yeah, it doesn't mix it with anything, but the ideas are so original. There are some elements of mythologies that I've never heard of. Selkies, yeah, I've never heard of that, and it is surprising because I don't want it to sound like I'm bragging, but it is very seldom when I actually hear about some parts of mythologies which I haven't heard of. I really like mythologies of different cultures, and to hear about something I haven't heard of before is quite surprising. And I cannot describe The Secret of the Sea much, but it is a very solid job. And it feels like Tomm Moore, by the time he directed The Song of the Sea, actually grasped his own vision and style. So when The Secret of Kells kind of reminded me of different works, like the said Tartakovsky works, The Song of the Sea is something special in its own way, something that paves the way for the style of Tomm Moore himself. And I've liked it a lot. Once again, it feels very, very original. In fact, to think of it, The Secret of Kells and The Song of the Sea are kind of the opposites of each other. In case of The Secret of Kells, it is a mix of ideas which should be the mainstream of nowadays, but it just doesn't happen. And on the other hand is The Song of the Sea, which is so original, so of its own. Yeah, it still bases itself on the classic mythology, but it still feels so original, so on its own, that it feels almost impossible to make nowadays. I mean, an original idea in this world so full of ideas is another opposite which seems to be most impossible to create, yet Tomm Moore did it, and it feels amazing to watch that movie. And then we come to The Wolfwalkers, his latest movie, which should have been bigger and better than the previous two, but I've kinda left somewhat dissatisfied with it. It feels it is bigger, and the animation is still very precious and still goes along the lines of Tomm Moore's Song of the Sea's special ways of animating, of animation in general. I guess that would be the correct way to describe it. But nevertheless, the plot-wise, I cannot get away from the feeling that the team intentionally dumped the movie down in order to appeal to mass audience. And from one point of view, it kind of worked. It definitely worked. It is not hard to see that Wolfwalkers is Tomm Moore's most popular movie up to date. In fact, I myself discovered Tomm Moore through the Wolfwalkers campaign, so to say, through the showings, the screening of Wolfwalkers, and through the audience reaction to it. And on the other hand, compared with his previous two movies, this dumping down feels... After you watch the first two movies, watching his third movie, Wolfwalkers feel lacking. The characters feel stupid, and I will show you just one parallel. There's a Lord Protector in the third movie, Wolfwalkers, who kind of feels like a stern character, very adamant to the rules, to God, somewhat similar to the head of the Abbey of Kells in the first movie. Nevertheless, in The Secret of Kells, the head of the Abbey, he's human-like. His sternness doesn't come from the need to just do bad things to the people around him. He's stern due to the danger around the Abbey, due to the world he lives in, and due to his views on how to protect the others around him from the sad dangers of the world. He's a leader, he's a stern leader, but you can see that he does what he thinks is best for the people. And Lord Protector, is he stern? Yes. Why is he stern? Just because we are not really shown the background of the Lord Protector. You can probably partly make it up yourself, but it is not shown to the viewer with the same clearness as it was in The Secret of Kells, and therefore Lord Protector comes out as an evil character that simply does evil things because he is evil. And this is what I call a flat character. Because that's the difference between a flat character and a non-flat character. You know, in the movie, you cannot just leave it to the viewer saying, well, yeah, people like this, they exist in real life, something happened in his life. Yeah, it kinda happens in real life, but this is not real life, this is a movie. And in a good movie, you have to show it to the viewer what made the character, because this is how you make the character. This is the literal definition of a character. Literally. And in Wolfwalkers, there are not enough definitions of a character. Lord Protector is just the biggest example, but the thing that the characters are lacking the definition, Lessama applies to pretty much all of them. They are feeling somewhat flat, if not to say stupid. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Lord Protector should be more like Head of an Abbey from the first movie. No, I'm just saying that if you're making an evil character, you should open him up. Let me actually show you this example. Undefined characters can actually work like some kind of a force of nature, something menacing and unstoppable, like an Emperor Palpatine from the Star Wars. He is almost undefined, but he is shown to be an unstoppable cataclysm that is slowly coming to drive the events of the movies forward. On the other hand, we have Darth Vader, who is an example of a defined villain with an extremely defined background. In fact, the whole second trilogy is there to define the background, the events that led to the appearance of a Darth Vader as a villain. And while in the original trilogy Darth Vader still feels like another cataclysm, like a second Palpatine, unstoppable, slow, relentless, another force of nature, still the moments that actually do define Darth Vader are so impactful that they are known as pretty much the most memorable moments in the whole history of cinematography. And in Wolfwalkers, Lord Protector is not defined enough to actually feel like a defined villain. He doesn't have his moments of definition that should establish him as something meaningful, and at the same time he is not shown menacing and unstoppable enough to feel like a legitimate force of nature. A very weak cataclysm at best. So all in all, he is somewhat flat character, and unfortunately, somewhat flat characters somewhat flatten my emotions that I've got from the Wolfwalkers. On the other hand, I am glad that this dumbing down probably worked. If it was there, I guess it worked, because the movie got its audience, and since it got its audience, it means it got money. Which means we will probably see the fourth movie from Tomm Moore. I only hope that his fourth movie would return to the complexity of his first two movies and will not continue to flatten his characters and simplify his ideas only in order to appeal to the more popular trends. Yeah, so all in all, I can recommend you to watch all three of Tomm Moore's movies and make up your own opinion. And I guess it is time for us to switch to the theme of the video, which is modifying the Midnight Club street racing game. So let's do it. First things first, let me show you how this idea came to be. I've actually planned this game to be just, a relaxing ride for an evening or two, but eventually I came to modding it because I didn't like the decals. I mean, this here on Cruzeiro Bueno, yeah, this looks good. This here on Cruzeiro Excelente, yeah, not so good. Just look at this on the hood and the trunk. I don't know, it's something pixelated, something that doesn't work. And to top it off, the artificial intelligence cars, the cars that your opponents drive, the homeboys, so to say, as they're called in the game, those cars lack those decals. So I've thought there should be a way to remove said decals from the car. Though, first thing first, I wanted to understand how the car is painted. And first of all, I found this address. To find it in the game, we should open our PCSX2 with cheat engine, then search for array of byte and enter this array of byte. Here are these two values, and these values, they actually control this value, which we pick for our car. However, if we will change it in the code itself, oops, come on. Sorry, I prefer to change it this way. For something fancy like yellow color, we should add this here. It doesn't work on this address, this means it should work here. Yep, like this. It have changed our boss addresses because this addresses is simply pointer. So as you can see, our car haven't quite changed our color on the screen, but if we will, I'm not sure if we should freeze it. I guess we can just pick it and it should work, and our car will spawn in yellow if I'm not mistaken. So this basically works. This is basically how you can change the color of the car. However, this doesn't quite remove the decals from the car. And therefore, I wanted to figure out how to remove these decals, and I've had to continue working through the code of the game. And thing is, I found the way to remove the decals. And this way is very funky, I therefore will not show it to you. However, it works. Here's an example from the save state. Here's the decal-less Cruzeiro Excelente. However, the trouble is, the car doesn't react to the color pointer anymore. And in fact, no matter how hard I've tried to find said color pointer, it doesn't work. As you can see, the code changes correctly, and everything should be quite alright. Just to show it all, here are our two addresses. Let's delete the old ones. And both of them change, but the color of the car doesn't change for whatever reason. And at this point, I've decided to find another way to change the color of the car, because this pointer, even though I can change it, it doesn't change the color of the car immediately. So I figured out there should be another way to control the color of the car. In fact, let me show you one more time what I mean. See, here is this pointer, 4 bytes red, 4 bytes green, 4 bytes blue. Let's change it to yellow. I don't quite remember FE or F3, but whatever. The point is, the car doesn't immediately change itself to the yellow. It only changes to the yellow if I'll choose the car and spawn it on the track. And I've decided to find the way to actually change the color of the car in the real time. And I've actually found that piece of code that controls the color of the car in the real time. Here's the 4 bytes value, and this value is the default color of the Cruzeiro Bueno. We are searching for this 4 bytes value. It adds some extra addresses and a bit more. I've mistook. Sorry. A little bit of a mistake. Now, as we change this color, it actually changes in real time, so we should search for changed value as we change the color of the car. So these 21 values are all represent the color of Cruzeiro Bueno. And we can change it. For example, for the yellow color, I found it is easier to change this in 4 bytes. And as you can see, this way of changing color actually changed the color of the car in real time. Still, it doesn't affect the car if you remove the decals the way I removed it. I can demonstrate it to you once again, because here is the default color for Cruzeiro Excelente. And, well, no matter what I will do with it, it won't change. In fact, as far as I remember, I can't find these values at all. They simply disappear. In fact, I think, as far as I've came to think, the fact that the car is purple is a bug. The way I've removed the decals, the car should be textureless, plain white. However, it is purple, and there is no way to change this purple. And no matter how hard I've tried, I couldn't find this purple in the code of the game. I think this is the very default color of the car, which applies to the car with some minor modifications, but I have no idea how to get to it and how to change it, and I'm not even sure why the car picks up the purple, because right now the car should be textureless, and I doubt it should even pick up that default color. So I have no idea how it works. It took me several evenings to actually admit it to myself that I have no chance to find the default color, and I have decided that it was time to check the AI drivers and to try to change their color. In fact, that idea came to me much earlier, but I've decided that it will not yield any meaningful results, and it was a mistake, because if I'd went to the AI drivers earlier, it would have saved me several evenings of time. But I didn't. So I went to the arcade, and I will actually do it right now, the moment the game loads. And luckily, in this game, the AI drivers have very bright colors, and it is very easy to understand that their colors are simply 100% red, 100% green, 100% blue. And such easy colors are easy to find. Of course, it was only a theory, but luckily, yeah, we've got a bit of luck. Luckily, it was a correct theory. So here we are launching AI race, a race versus AI. And yeah, what can I say? Ooh. Here we are. As you can see, as I've said, the colors of the AI drivers are very simple. In this race we have yellow, green and red. So let's just try and find one of them, like this. Okay, so let's go to the cheat engine. And here's our red color. Alright now. Eyes on the red car as we search for the red color in the code of the game. First scan, a bit of next. Well, in fact, all the addresses of the game are somewhere between 20 millions and 30 millions, and therefore I'm pretty sure that this will be enough for us to change the color of the AI driver. Let's do this. Bam! I hope you understand what you see now. I mean, look at the car. It has changed its color to the yellow, but the car remained red. Pardon me, I've pressed F something, F3, 5, F7. Yeah. Alright, so the game actually paints the decals. The game not only paints the car red in the case of AI drivers, but it also paints the decals red. It doesn't actually remove them, it simply paints them over. That was the answer we were looking for, and all what was left at that point was of course to figure out where the colors of the decal were in the code. And it didn't took much time. In fact, all it took is to pinpoint exactly which addresses related to the color of the AI car, which I've then opened in the memory browser, and it immediately became obvious what's what. So I guess it is just the time to demonstrate you this whole method, and to do it let's actually use the player's car. Let's load something. Oops, this is already painted yellow. Let's choose this one. Yeah, the way I remove the decals, if I'll actually load the car on the track, it will load with the decals. You actually have to remove the decals during the loading in order to remove them in my old, incorrect, buggy way. So, to remove the decals from your car, you have to search for the first bytes of the decal. In fact, by default, you can actually search for the color of your car. It will work like this. Your color should be somewhere along these addresses. 20FA. Yeah, this should be it. To make it simpler, I've actually pinpointed, copied from the code the first bytes that precisely related to the decals. So now we can search not for color but for the color of the decals themselves. Yeah, not for color of the car but for the color of the decals themselves. It is an array of byte, we passed it here. There would be several of them. Sometimes there are more, but your will be the very first one, 20FA, and the next one would be far below it by the big margin, so you can ignore it. This is the color of your car. Here it comes. Our actual color is above this line. It is actually several lines of 4-byte chunks that end with 80. Our current bright red color is FF000080. As you can see, our trunk is becoming yellow as we change the color of our car. The way it works is the decals, in case of every car, are applied to the various parts of the body of the car. In case of Cruzeiro Excelente, we have actually 3 decals. One on the hood, oops, wrong button. Come on, one of the hood and the trunk, and one decal on the sides, and the third decal, actually let me show it to you, as I will. Let's search for the sides of the car. It's a bit more. As you can see, there are 2 20FA, because this decal, for some reason, I'm not sure why, is applied twice, and as we will repaint it, we will see which part of the car is, oops, not affected by one of them, but affected by another. Yeah, can you see this small area around the number of the car, of the license plate? Yeah, this is how it's called on English. This small area around the license plate, for some reason, has its own color dedicated to it. I'm not sure why, but that's how it's done, so if we will not change it, it will remain red. It also has all the information related to the decals also applied somewhere there, but I cannot see anything decal related down there. So, as I've said, Cruzeiro Excelente has 3 parts of the paint applied to it. One on the hood and the trunk, and 2 others are kinda on the sides, but one of them is there near the license plate. So, in order to repaint the decal, once again, let's open our hood and trunk section. We have to replace all the subsequent 4-byte areas which are end with 7F thing. As I will replace it, you will be able to see, in fact you already probably will be able to see, I'm not sure how hard YouTube will cut down the quality of the video, but you can see probably several yellow pixels already appeared there as I've changed one of the 4 bytes. So let's continue doing it. And as we're doing it, you can see the decal slowly becomes yellow until we come to the very last 4 bytes that end with 7F. Here are the last 4 bytes, and you probably can see that these are the pixels, the very last pixel, and you can see one on the hood as well. Yeah, there it is, right there. Sorry, here it is. This is our last 4 bytes that end with 7F, and as we change it to yellow, bam, we have no decals. As you can see, the 4-byte chunk that comes next doesn't have 7F at its end, so I'm not sure what it means, and therefore we shouldn't touch it. And if we will come to the sides, we can make them yellow in no time as well. I'm not sure why sides have 8-0 and decals have 7F at the end. In fact, if you'll change decals with 8-0, nothing fundamentally will change. I suppose it is somewhat of an alpha, because it makes sense. 1 byte red, 1 byte green, 1 byte blue, and 1 byte alpha, which makes decals somewhat less standing out on the sides of the car. But I haven't checked that much, and this is 2 more 7Fs. Yes, our car is pretty much yellow at this point. There are nothing that breaks the yellow sides of it. Yellow lines, so to say. We are pretty much driving an AI car by now. And to top it off, we can remove the decal which should be applied somewhere around the license plate. It is not there, but to just keep it, you know, clear, I prefer to remove it as well. However, it is completely non-necessary. So, what can be the complications to this method? Well, first things first, this color will only remain yellow without decals until you start a race or until you return to the garage. Once you start the race, you will have to repeat the process of removing decals all over. While it is somewhat bearable with Cruzeiro Excelente, which only holds 3 decals, I can imagine it can become somewhat bothersome if you will repaint some other cars which we can hold much more decals. I'm not sure how much, but I'm pretty sure Cruzeiro Magnifico has about at least about 5 of them. So yeah, it can become rather bothersome and you have to repeat it manually over and over and over again. At least once you start the race and remove all the decals from your car, it will remain that color until you actually finish and quit the race. All the restarts, the replay, the color will remain the way you've set it. To optimize the code, well, unfortunately, I will not do it. I'm pretty sure only so few people play this game now, and only so few people will actually bother watching this video and actually try it themselves. So, and if you're that dedicated, I am pretty sure you're dedicated enough to repeat it all over manually. At least I am that dedicated, and to actually somehow optimize this code, will take a lot of time. It will take tons of time because the code in this game is very erratic, at least on the emulator. It is very erratic, it is all over the place, none of the addresses are static, and you have to search for them every time you start the race or the free ride, and every time it will be different. And you will have to... So therefore, in order to optimize the code, you actually have to go into actual code, to the actual functions rather than the code itself. And to search for the correct functions is kind of hard because the functions change their addresses as well. So overall, optimizing the code is crazy and it will take a lot of time, and I'm not ready to do it because I do not have that much time. In fact, it took me, as I've said, probably multiple times already, 4 evenings to find it in the code. I cannot spend 4 evenings more to actually made it with the functions of the game. And to cover the last question I wanted to discuss, is it actually possible to do it on PlayStation 2? Well, unfortunately the answer is no, due to all the facts I've said just before. The code of the game is wild, at least in the emulator there are no static functions, and to my knowledge the way it works in the emulator pretty much the same way it works on the PlayStation 2, so I have no idea how to transfer it to the actual PlayStation 2 console. I just have no idea, sorry. I've transferred my Burnout Dominator simple hack with these, because there were only 4 bytes. Here you have to change a huge chunk of code which change its address every time you load the track. So yeah, I have no idea how to transfer it to PlayStation 2. So from my point of view, if you want to use this hack, you have to use the emulator. And well, this is it. Somewhat clunky way of driving the AI styled cars in Midnight Club Street Racing. Ooh, I hope you enjoyed it, cats, because it actually took me a lot of time to figure it out. And well, whoever watched this video, I hope you liked it. Hopefully I will find more interesting things to hack soon enough. Thanks for being with me, cats. Stay tuned for more. Good luck!